This episode of the Christians Who Drink Whiskey and Their Open-Minded Friends podcast is brought to you by Guy and Lady Barrel alcohol-infused cigars. These cigars are absolutely incredible, and they are perfect for any occasion. I particularly enjoy their newest flavor, Mojito. I'm not sure if you heard me correctly. I said Mojito-flavored cigar. I don't think it gets much better than that. Now, cigars are best enjoyed with company, so head on over to alcoholinfusedcigars.com and pick up a 5-cigar box set with any flavor of your choice. These cigars are great for birthdays, weddings. They're a great gift. You can give them for almost any occasion. I particularly love to get a cigar out, go on an evening walk, and pray. But you can use it however you want. Once again, thank you to Guy and Lady Barrel Cigars for sponsoring our show. Go to alcoholinfusedcigars.com and see all they have to offer. Please enjoy responsibly. Because I have my friend Carley Harper here with me in the LA studio for the podcast this week, which is your home.
Very happy to have you. Thank you.
This is amazing. First off, you moved out here again. I'm finding you're back and forth between Philadelphia and here, and 2 years ago again?
Yeah, about 2 years ago.
Yeah. And we're sitting in a house that Carley bought and then fixed up herself. A couple, she brought some tradesmen in here and there. But if I do this level of perfection, floors and counters and cabinets, I'm calling a lot of help. But you first off, you're an actress, and that's how we met. And but you also do construction.
I do. I feel very lucky that I have two passions. And that's acting and construction. I love building. I specialize mostly in carpentry, but I can do other little things to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Thanks to my father,
who
is also a carpenter.
Yeah.
He has trained me.
Is that how... Well, I know you're here in LA for many reasons, but for acting is one of them. And let's talk about that in a second, because I love that subject. But your father, did you go out with him a lot? Is this how you kind of became a carpenter?
Well, I grew up on a peach farm. My dad's actually a peach farmer.
Okay.
And this will come as a complete shock to everybody, but peach farmers don't make a lot of money.
Well, no.
And they also freeze out every once in a while.
Yeah,
so if the temperature drops too low, there's no peaches that year.
Yeah.
So he was a carpenter early on, he learned.
Yeah.
And then he ended up going during these summers if we'd freeze out, and he would go work in Vail and Aspen, different areas, and I would just go and sit there. My sister would be there. She grew up on construction sites.
Yeah.
So I learned a little there, but when I really started to hone in my skills was in adulthood. Yeah. I always really wanted to build a house and flip houses and do the real work.
Yeah.
And so I bought a house in a really rough area in Philadelphia. And my dad is just the kindest human being. Yeah. Supportive of everything. Yeah. Just the most harebrained ideas. But he saw that house and he said, this is a mistake. He said, this area is a mistake. This house, I don't think this is a good idea. But he hung in there. We had a drive-by shooting one day when I drove up from Home Depot, and he was up in the house and I was hiding behind the truck, and I came up and expected, my peach farmer dad to be scared, and he was just hooting and hollering. He couldn't wait to call his best friend and tell him he saw his first drive-by shooting.
What neighborhood is this?
Francisville.
Okay. What's Francisville? That's hot...
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's a hot neighborhood.
It's hot.
Yeah.
See? So the end of the story is...
Yeah, end of the story.
It was a good buy.
Well, you're a crazy little entrepreneur, and that's... We live in Kensington right now, and we had our car was a crime zone, because we had to drive by. We had a little turf war. The guys selling on the corner didn't like the other guys selling on the other corner, and I came home and my wife was like, "Our car is a crime zone," and we're like, "What does that mean?" Like she's like, "There's bullet holes in the car," like, and I was like, "Oh wow," I'm like, "Let's move out," and she's like, "No, I got this." Like I grew up in Haiti.
She's so incredible.
So crazy, but yeah, you're dead. No, you mentioned Vail and Aspen. Where'd you grow up at?
It's a small town called Palisade, Colorado.
Okay.
In a few months, when you're putting off your taxes, Google it. Palisade, Colorado. It's all peaches, and now they've started planting grapes and, of course, marijuana, because it's Colorado.
Yeah, cool, awesome.
So, yeah.
So, what brought you to after Colorado? I knew you were in LA at one point, and then you affiliated back to LA, right?
I've been all over. So when I graduated college, or high school, there's a wonderful man. His name is Bill Daniels, and he had scholarships, full ride scholarships if you got his scholarship. So I got it, and he would pay for you to go anywhere that you got in.
Wow.
I just had this fascination with New York because I'm from this town that doesn't even have a stoplight, and I just thought New York was where I wanted to go. So I went to NYU and met amazing, incredible people there. From New York, I went to Portland, Oregon. Then I went over and lived in Salzburg, Austria.
Yeah.
Backpacked across Europe because why not?
Yeah.
And then I went back to Portland, and I was doing research in the ICU there. And then I ended up getting a job in LA, doing research on multiple myeloma, developing chemotherapies. So
awesome.
that's how I came down here.
You have so many crazy things going on. So you're a researcher, you're an actor, you're a carpenter, entrepreneur, and buying and flipping houses. That's so cool. That's cool. Did your dad move out there just to help you with that, or does he live in Philadelphia? Or
no, he still lives on his peach farm in Colorado.
But he came out to help you do some carpentry in Francisville.
Yeah, and he even came out to LA and bailed me out. Him and his best friend. My dad drove all the way out in his pickup and brought all these tools that I didn't have. I got broken into, and a lot of my tools got stolen when I bought this house. So he came out and he helped me out a lot, and
that's awesome.
It was fun. We just love building together. It's I am truly the luckiest girl in the world to get to build houses with my dad.
That's really cool. That is really awesome. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the acting, because I met you at the premiere of one of the premieres of What Death Leaves Behind, a film by our friend Rachel Forey, and I was casting for. It's on our Facebook site now. You can check it out. It's called You Came Parts 1 and 2, and I was just like, I need help. We were trying to create a big church scene, big comedy film, and you were like, oh, I'd love to be part of that, and we pulled you in real quick, and then we did this comedy short in a day. So that was my first time working together.
Right.
And how long have you been pursuing acting?
I've been seriously pursuing acting for the last 3 years.
Nice. I
actually didn't tell anybody. People are starting to find out slowly now, but I don't really tell people in my life. Mm-hmm. I know LA, we all have this list of things we do because you have to wear many hats in this industry and just in general to keep yourself afloat. I don't take pride in all the hats I wear. Yeah. I would love to just specialize in my two things now. I feel I've had my time doing research, and I always wanted to do acting so much that I couldn't even tell people out loud. My whole life I wanted to do it. And I don't know where this idea came from, but I somehow in childhood thought that if you were really good at something, that's what you had to do. Yeah. If something came naturally to you. Yeah. And I do remember all through school, math and science came easier to me. I'm not going to say I was really good at it, but that's what came easier to me than everything else. Mm-hmm. And I tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist, so I loved being good at that. Yeah. And I thought that's what I had to do. But I went out for the Music Man when I was a kid, And I remember sitting up there. I memorized everybody's lines. I knew everyone's lines. I knew my lines. And I would sit there, and I was kind of shy, but I always wanted to help everybody because they didn't know their lines in rehearsal. And I thought, I know, I could help you. And so I remember they'd be flipping through the script.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I had so much fun. And I remember being really confused, I wish I could do this, but I guess I'm a math and science person, so that's what I have to do if I'm going to do well. And my dad is just, as I mentioned, he is so kind and so wonderful. And my parents didn't go to college. My dad would tell my sister and I, when we would go to Aspen and Vail, we'd be in these huge houses, and the construction workers would be complaining about the owners and can't believe they would spend money like this on these houses. And my dad would always pull us aside and say, don't listen to them. These people, they were working hard while I was out playing. So that's why I'm working on their house now. They went to college, they worked hard. So I'm here working on their house, because I played and they were sacrificing.
Yeah.
And so that message, his heart was in the right place, and it certainly helped me a lot, and I wouldn't take anything back. But in my mind, I just thought, well, I got to get out there and do college, and I need to work hard, even though he never demanded grades. In fact, my sister and I we were both valedictorians, and both of our parents often paid us they would ask us to get a B. They would pay us if we'd get a B.
Why?
Because they didn't like how much pressure we put on ourselves.
Wow.
And they just couldn't comprehend, and they still can't, why you would care so much about a letter. It doesn't matter, a grade.
They would pay you to get a lower grade.
They offered to pay us.
To relax. Were they trying to pay you to relax?
Yeah, I think they were trying to, they were great in that they didn't need their kids to be perfect.
Yeah.
It was this weird pressure both my sister and I put on ourselves.
Interesting.
They weren't the parents that put honor roll student on their car.
Yeah.
Parents, I remember oftentimes would talk about how great their kid was doing in school, and my parents would stay silent. They wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
And it never bothered me. I think I understood early on. But
interesting.
Yeah.
That's a very unique perspective, but I understand it, yeah.
So, side trail down, in my heart, I always wanted to do acting.
Yeah.
My parents would tell me I was artistic. I remember when I was going to college, my mom really wanted me to go into fashion design because I used to make my own clothes. I made, my prom dresses, and we didn't have very much money, but
yeah,
I didn't really realize that.
Yeah.
Because I thought, oh, this is fun. I'll make this great dress.
Yeah.
So I think I had this artistic side, but I thought, oh, if I'm not exceptionally talented at something, then I shouldn't pursue it. And I'm glad, though, that I went into the sciences, and, I took math, and it was beautiful to combine math and science as I got older. I remember I would drive to a local college, and I took Calc 1, 2, and 3 there. And I remember in vector calc, I first learned how to derive the double helix. And that was the first time I realized, oh, math and science are one. This is great. It was great.
You lost me at how to drive a double helix. Is that a car? What is that?
DNA. You've seen the sign.
Yeah.
DNA. It's called a double helix.
What do you mean by drive it though?
Derive it.
Oh, so derive it.
Yes.
I was like, derive.
I need to enunciate. I lost you because I'm not enunciating, not because.
I wanted to figure out how to drive the double helix. So I'll pull this closer just to get a little more, Mike's a little closer to us. Okay. Yeah, it's awesome. I think that it's interesting that little bit of a fear of oh, I'm not good enough. I think that there's, or I have to do this. I'm either this or this. I think that there's a lot of wonderful, the theme of the day. We've done a bunch of podcasts today, and the theme of the day is the hyphenation. I'm this, and this, and those things are I think for you, the researcher, all three of those things, don't, the carpenter, the researcher, the actor, it's just a fascinating mix. And I think I love finding out people do something different. That they, you teach swing dancing or like whatever it is. Right. Like the discovery of someone you know or you're meeting or getting to know, and they have this other side to them that's like just fascinating, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
And now as I've gotten older, I guess I often saw it in other people. I, have this best friend who's also great at math, and she's a brilliant writer. She's my writing partner now on a couple projects. And another great director in town who actually I met in organic chemistry. We were both on our path to pre-med, to go to med school. And he's borderline genius, if not genius. And years later, I get a message from him on Instagram. I didn't know you were acting. He saw a comedy video I had. Yeah. And he said, let's get together and talk. And I couldn't believe he was directing. Yeah. This brilliant scientist wants to make films. And he recently had a film come out, and I went and saw it. It was his first feature film. And I just thought, is there anything you can't do? Yeah. So people are, I see it all around me.
We can't pigeonhole people or put them in like a lane. We have to be open-minded, as the show title says. I think that's one thing is I think we get people pigeoned in a lane, and that is a sign of us being closed-minded.
It is.
To saying, no, you can't do that because X, Y, or Z,
Right. Yeah. And to your point of living out of fear, I think for me, I am more fearful of seeing myself as being able to be multifaceted and have an array of skills. But I can see other people and think, I really don't think there's anything they could not do. And there's so many people in my life that I can point to that and, and have watched them say, I'm leaving this incredible job and I'm going to go start this production company. And I'm thinking, I know you can do it. You're going to be amazing. I couldn't do that. Yeah. And so getting over this fear of just knowing other people can do it and believing in ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I got to believe myself in the last few days because I acted. I was a friend of mine asked me to be an actor in his project. Our mutual friend Hans.
Yes.
And you were in Hans's film. I was in Hans's film.
Great director.
Everyone, by the time the film is done, everyone will be in Hans's film. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to see it because our friend Hans Nelson has an amazing personal story. He's making his own biopic pick. It's gonna be really great. But then I showed up here, and you're like, hey, when you come over on Tuesday, can you help me run lines for an audition? And I was like, that sounds like so much fun. Like I've acted before. I've done some cameos or cameos as a cinematographer when you you're doing the pickup days for my friend Ben Hicker. Now we do pickup days as a DP, and he's like, hey, hit record on the camera, then put on this like hat and like walk over there, and you're gonna spit out some Tootsie Rolls that look like tobacco at the main character. And I'm like, is an actor, I'm blanking on his name, but he was in Cougar Town, and I'm like, I have to go spit at a Hollywood actor, that's that thing. You hired me to be a cinematographer. Why?
Why am I spitting?
And it's funny because now for a year or two after that, people would say like, "Hey, I'm watching this movie called Lebanon, PA, and I see you in it. You're in the first 5 minutes." Some hick, and I'm like, "Thank you, thanks, Ben." You
can do it all.
I came to your apartment, and I got to read with you. It was so much fun.
Yeah, actually, I told you after you landed. I said, "Oh, can you help me when you get here?" And then you got here. Oh, by the way, can you just put your stuff down? And
I literally put my stuff down and started acting. I was talking with one of our guests from the podcast, Spencer Fulmar, and another director, and he was saying that we don't often get to direct. As a director, sometimes you go days, months, weeks, years between your directing opportunities. Mm-hmm. And so reading lines with you was a twofold great experience. One, I got to put myself in the shoes of an actor. And I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, I felt, all right, Carly's trying to go out for this audition, and I know acting's all about reacting.
Right.
And if I want to do I want Carly to get this part, I got to do my best in my character to give you something to play off of.
Yep, you're absolutely right, and you nailed it. And the thing is,
not on the first take, that's for sure.
No, you did. I didn't. I was so impressed. Your reading was so great, but what you aren't mentioning is that you did direct me as well.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is I got to do both. I got to think of myself like, all right, what would I want to see in this scene? And I know that for actors, like you rise to everybody. You know, I play volleyball sometimes, and I was part of a really good team. And I was the worst player on the team, just so you know, but I was part of a really good team. And when we would play teams that were worse than us, we would play at their level. We would play teams that are better than us, we'd play at their level. And so I think acting is a lot like that. If you get in a scene with a really good actor or someone who's having a good day,
right,
you rise to their level. So I was trying to do that for you, and then I was like, oh, cool, this is an opportunity for me to like observe now as a director and give feedback. So it was really fun. I had a great time.
Good. It was.
We're doing one this afternoon, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
It was exceptional for me. I also, there's one thing to audition and kind of gauge, okay, it's working, it's not working. But because of COVID, one of the blessings of COVID is we've had to adjust the way we take class. And I'm a firm believer, if you're not on set, you're in class. That's my personal agenda.
Yeah.
So I've been taking a lot of video audition classes because why not? A lot of casting is going to these video auditions. And one thing that I think was, for me, a significant misconception was that your reader should just be dull. Just give the lines to you. I don't know. I've been told that. I now have learned that is not accurate.
Yeah.
And in this class, one of the big things that I get back, it's with Howard Fine, and he's wonderful, is he will say, have a healthy ego. And oftentimes he will say, you need a different reader. You just have to have a different reader. You lost me immediately because your reader isn't good. You need to get an actor. Yeah. And even though I know I thought, I'm cutting this one close. If he's not a great reader, I'm going to have to say, I need to go call and,
pressure's on, but
and you did it.
We got the callback.
We did. We got the callback.
If you get this job, it's gonna be a win for me. It's gonna be my first role in Los Angeles.
It's already a win because just getting the callback is wonderful.
That's great. Yeah, I would have been like, I would have understood being a creative type. Mm-hmm. I would have understood, but I was like, if you had like. If I got fired from being a reader, that's comedy. There'd be another like. I know how you're not on camera, and this isn't about you. You're just reading lines, but I need somebody else.
I have had to fire people, but they didn't know in the past. Because the great thing is, if they're not here, they don't know they got fired.
Carly hasn't called you in a long time to be a reader. Hint, hint. It might have been you. Sorry. Did I just logic? Maybe
you said we can edit this, right?
That's great. What you were telling me, one of the roles you keep getting cast at. But what do you want to do? What kind of roles would you want to do?
So this is something that I explore a lot, talking to different actors or director friends of mine, and I really, again, thought I needed to choose one specific thing. And I love comedy. Yeah. I do a lot of comedy when the world is open. I do a lot of improv and have a great improv team that we go around with here in LA. I love doing comedy roles similar. The audition you got me was comedy. But conversely, I also really love these really deep, dark roles where I have to learn something else about society. I have one that I might have you look at if we have time, where I am a drug addict, and it was one of my favorite roles. And researching that role was I just didn't want it to end, and it hasn't. I've just continued researching it, and I just hope that I could get cast as that, which is why I want it on my reel, because I think we look at people and we typecast them.
Yeah.
And I want someone to cast me and don't put makeup on me and make my hair look as bad as you can.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't care if I'm dirty sitting on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I love those roles because I learned so much, of course, from emotional standpoint, but also what's happened, you know, in someone's life. And I realized something that's so interesting is they always say, you know, don't judge the character. And I had this incredible epiphany how close, at least I can say I have been, to having ended up in that situation. It is so, we're just blessed. We're lucky to end up on a different path. But a lot of times it's just this emotional strain of almost just needing to give up for a little bit and just not be working towards something because you're so exhausted from life, or something tragic happened in your life. Some people don't have families. You know, I didn't come from money, but I came from the most incredible parents that, you know, when I went to NYU, I, of course, was around people with lots of money and the pressure they got from their parents. And I realized, wow, I was born rich.
Yeah.
Best life ever. And a lot of people, they don't have a fallback plan. Just knowing that I could run home to my dad's peach farm if I need to.
Yeah.
There's people that don't have that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if you needed more money in NYU, you could have told your dad you're going to get some bees, you know.
Right. I loved learning that about you.
I meant you getting some bees, not
bees.
A's.
Oh, well, the money they were offering me was limited.
Wouldn't pay your rent in New York.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the other part of that story is, as wonderful as my parents are, they also don't care about money.
Yeah.
So if your parents raise you to not care about money, it's kind of hard to be motivated to do something for money.
Yeah.
They probably should have tried to think of something else.
Yeah. This episode of the Christians Who Drink Whiskey and Their Open-Minded Friends podcast is brought to you by Dad's Hat Pennsylvania Rye Whiskey. Dad's Hat is real rye whiskey made the right way. This month's featured bottle is Classic Rye. Barrel aged for at least 6 months in charred new oak quarter cask allows the genuine rye flavor to evolve quickly. As a result, this small batch whiskey is ensured of reaching the right balance of complexity and smoothness. The final product is a very smooth spirit that delivers upfront spice that rye is known for while finishing with a full, round mouthfeel. To find a distributor of this award-winning whiskey, head on over to dadshatrye.com, or if you're a Pennsylvania resident, you can have any of their delicious rye whiskeys delivered right to your door. Trust the distillery with over 200 years of American distilling tradition, Dad's Hat Rye. Please enjoy responsibly. That's really, really great. So your time coming to LA has been fruitful in terms of getting to pursue this acting dream.
It's
not a dream because you're doing it. You're getting cast in things.
Yeah.
Or can you tell us anything you're in? We can get it. So if you haven't seen Carley, go to Funny&Amen's YouTube channel and look up for You Came Part 1 and 2 because she's in there, a small role. But anything else you can talk about that you're in that's maybe out there?
Yeah, I have a few things. Well, of course, we have Hans's project.
Yeah, when that comes out, yeah.
Yes, and I have another project that I did with a wonderful director named Mario. He was lovely. So that's coming out. I know that they've been adjusting the name of it, so working on that. And then I have another project called Just Landed that it's a pilot I'm working on, which is really exciting.
That's awesome.
There's a lot.
And there was on your Instagram there was a comedian you're doing some sketches with, or just that one?
Oh yes, Denver. Oh, yeah. He's brilliant.
Are you doing? I saw the one you were in where it's girls' night and he turns into you, which is super fun.
We'll probably do more in the future. It's also difficult right now with COVID. Everything's on hold. There's a few projects, actually 4 projects that I've been cast for, but they keep moving back, recording. And also it's sad, I guess, it's more difficult now with funding because there's a lot of precautions that cost a lot of money with COVID.
Yeah, cool.
But
so when the dust clears, we'll you'll be out there
Yeah,
front
we'll
of the
see when
cameras.
they start filming. But
Yeah, cool.
Still working on the project just landed, which is great. We'll start working on that soon. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, I wanted to thank everybody who's a patron for supporting great conversations like these. If you want to be a patron, go to patreon.com/funny&amen. That's patreon.com/funnyandAmen. And like I said, you can see Carley in some of our comedy shorts that are on our Patreon and on our YouTube. And that's youtube.com/funny&amen. Let's dive into the other part of the show.
All right.
And these are questions I ask, all my wonderful guests. What do you think of Jesus?
Oh, my goodness. He's awesome. First of all, he's a carpenter. So that's great.
We had to make that connection. Good. One of us is going to make that, so thank you.
I like guys who are strong carpenters. And he, we've talked about this a little bit, but I think it's really important to think about how we want to live individually. And of course, Jesus was amazing if you take him into modern times and you think about what he would look like in 2020. And I think we all know how patient he is and how kind he is. But if we were, in my feeling, I think he also has healthy boundaries, which I really respect. He accepts everybody, which gives hope for those like me who are not perfect.
Shocking news. Carly's not perfect. No secret. I'm not perfect either.
That is hard to believe. But
talk to Meg more.
I think Jesus is awesome.
Awesome. I think that the next question I typically ask is with religion, specifically, would you call yourself a Christian?
Currently, my whole life, yes, I would.
Yeah.
I am having a confusing time with my faith.
Okay.
Now. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about that more, or are we going to move on to the next question?
I can discuss it a little.
Well, let me ask the question.
Yes. The
question is, I typically ask is what are the pros and cons of? Mm-hmm. I ask you if you're a Christian because in this context, what are the pros and cons of Christianity? And you were a Christian, are a Christian, have been a Christian.
Right.
What have you seen that is maybe adding to that confusion?
Okay. Well, if I can start with the amazing things that I've seen.
Okay.
Because that is what I think about every day. I was raised a Christian. My father's side was Catholic, and my mother's side, we went to a non-denominational church. There was 5 boys in my dad's family, and my grandpa got diagnosed with polio. He ended up being in the iron lung, and they already didn't have a lot of money. My grandpa worked at a tire company, and so now he's in the hospital, and they had a new baby, and my grandmother was trying to raise these 5 boys with no money. Her husband is not working now, and the Catholic Church was incredible. They would help with clothes, donated clothes. They would come over and help with the boys. They had a place to take the boys. When the electricity would go out, my grandmother would have to go to the hospital and manually pump the iron lung to keep my grandfather alive. She was incredible, and really, really knew Jesus, and my grandfather did too. And I think because of his strength with the Lord, when he came out of the iron lung, he was paralyzed, so he never walked again. And he was a big, strong man like you, And the tire company wouldn't take him back, so he didn't have a job. And he decided to be an architect because he still had his brain.
Yeah.
And I think that the church really helped them through, and their faith helped them through. The community was paramount for them.
Yeah.
And because of that, they, gave even more back to the church when they could. And they would bring in orphan boys who lived in orphanages at that time. and they ended up adopting my Uncle Craig,
Hmm.
which is great. And my Uncle Craig has the most profound faith I think I've ever seen. And for me, I don't understand how, because I struggle more with the adversity he faced. He doesn't seem to struggle with it at all. So he was an orphan. He was living with the nuns. He has this incredible faith, and he wanted to be a priest, but they wouldn't let him because he was black.
Oh, wow.
And he's still the most dedicated person at the church. There every Sunday, at least, you know, donating his time, donating his money. He shows up. He's an incredible, you know, he's a priest without being a priest.
Despite like racism,
right?
He still attended. I'm sure he got hurt by that.
I'm sure he did, but
his dedication was just to keep going.
This man is not a victim. He doesn't talk about it. He went and got his education, became a teacher, got his master's. Now he goes to prisons and teaches them there in retirement. I mean, just the most incredible person. He is a true Christian.
Wow, you know? That's a crazy story.
His relationship is with Jesus. His relationship is with God. It's not with, you know, his anger towards being, you know, held back and facing adversity. So I see those struggles there. And growing up, you know, I went to church, and I guess I felt that I had to believe in God, and I did. But my experience at church was often, it was hard, because I would go to Sunday school and I was made fun of a lot. And so I always dreaded going, because I remember the nicest thing I had was this brown dress. And it was, now looking back, it was not nice. It was from the Goodwill. But I thought it was really nice until I went to church and everybody made fun of me. And they made fun of all my clothes. And so for me, there's parts of church that I really loved, but my childhood memories were, you know, really not being good enough, you know, being judged a lot. But it didn't affect my faith. I would just have this sinking feeling that I remember going to church because I was going to be made fun of.
Wow, that's terrible.
But you know, we all get made fun of as kids.
Yeah, it's true.
We all do. Yeah. We all have this story.
I had the clothing story. Yeah. You know, like little girl was like, "You wore that shirt yesterday."
Right. We all have it. So it's not the worst story in the world.
No.
The thing that makes me sad is it was also the ones that I got it worse from were the pastor's kids. You know, and I remember going to their house, and it was this big, beautiful house with this incredible pool, and, you know, it's like 2 towns over where this church was.
Yeah.
You know, now as an adult and I look back at it, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around. And then I see the thing I struggle with a lot is hypocrisy. But in the same breath, aren't I also walking in hypocrisy? You know, I try not to, but I do.
I think that's so very profound to be able to say that, because I think that, and there's a ton, there's so much hypocrisy in the church. Mm-hmm. Because there's so many people in the church. Right. And there's so much hypocrisy outside the church, you know, yes. But we don't like, you know, we don't like naming ourselves as hypocrites. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I think that is, you know, Jesus says confess. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of people aren't ready to confess that what they just told someone else, they are not following themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So I think as I got older, I started really seeing where I was struggling with the Word of God and reading the Bible and trying to understand, am I interpreting things wrong? Am I not really a Christian? And what really started making me wonder, am I lying? I think I'm a Christian, but I would have conversations with other people saying I'm struggling with this issue, such as I really believe in gay rights. You know, that's a hard one for me. And I just think it's so important to be able to be free to love who you want if you are two consenting adults. I just, that one is really hard for me. And I would have this discussion, and over again, I was told, you know, you can't be a Christian and pick and take from the Bible. And I thought, well, I don't think that I'm picking and taking, and, you know, to save everyone's time from going down the rabbit hole of the details of why I interpret it differently. That was a big one for me. That was really hard. And also another one that is hard for me, that is very controversial, is a woman's right to choose. Yeah. And I actually, at least on a weekly basis, have this healthy debate, which is so nice, with a couple acting friends of mine. It seems that most of my really close acting friends are very, very dedicated Christians. And, you know, they will debate the opposite side of this with me. And it's so lovely that I can have a healthy discussion with them and they aren't angry at me. But for many years as I grew older, I was met with a lot of hostility and being told that I wasn't a Christian. And so that's when I really started wondering, what is a Christian exactly? And until I'm really sure that I am a Christian, I don't want to say that, because I was also seeing so much hypocrisy around me. People that were so proud to be Christians that, you know, to me, I thought, you know, there's mistakes, and then there's choosing to make a mistake and choosing to then go pray about it later. And that, for some reason, that hypocrisy really resonates in a really heavy way in my heart. To bluntly hear that, well, she's making her money, or I'm making my money now, but by the time I'm 30, I won't be doing this. This behavior, you know, that you're doing here on social media, it is so difficult for society to see in general. You wouldn't do this in front of your grandmother. You do it, you know. Yeah. And we have a society of people my age doing this stuff, and that's okay. But when you turn around and you're then pointing the finger at somebody who's gay and saying they're going to hell, that's what I was seeing a lot of, you know. That really was hard for me. But they said, well, when I'm 30, I won't be, you know, dressing this way. On my backside. And moving it in certain directions. But it is really wrong to be gay. And I just thought, I can't wrap my mind around that. And I'm being told that I'm not a Christian. Because I support gay marriage. So, so that's why my faith is in limbo.
Blurry. Limbo. It is interesting to see, you know, what different people perceive as the most important thing for themselves and the most important thing for other people. And it's not easy to see hypocrisy.
Right.
It definitely hurts the soul to kind of like to explore that and to realize that, like, it feels like a double standard.
Yes. Yeah. But there's a gentleman, Stephen Covett, who said something that really has helped me try to overcome this. And he says, we judge ourselves by our intentions, and we judge others by their actions. And I thought, I may not be doing this certain behavior, but I am doing other things that are not right. Yeah. But I'm not okay with these people doing this. So, you know, while I find this hypocrisy in others, I also find it in myself. It may be less blatant, but hypocrisy is hypocrisy, and sins are sins. Yeah. So, you know, the journey continues for me too. Yeah. Oh, for all of us, the journey continues. So thank you for being honest. Thank you for being completely vulnerable and honest about that. It's great. Another question I ask a lot of my podcast guests is, have you ever had any experiences that are maybe paranormal or supernatural or
spiritual, something that's like kind of like otherworldly.
Wow. What a fun question.
Yeah. Get some good ones.
Yeah, you got me. I would not classify any experiences I have as paranormal necessarily. I think I've had some experiences that I can't name that are, pretty incredible. I remember I didn't have a voice. I didn't have anyone speaking to me, but I was backpacking across Europe. I was in Prague. We arrived, I don't know, the train, we had a problem with the train. We arrive at 2 a.m. My girlfriend and I get out and we have these huge, heavy backpacks. And I thought, just out of nowhere, turn around and tell them you got robbed. I don't know why I felt that way, but I turned around and there was a bunch of guys coming towards us. And I just started hysterically telling them, I need help, we got robbed. And my friend looked at me confused, what are you doing? And I just started acting hysterical. And I could see the shock and the way they stopped. They were about to mug us. And, I think because the change in their body language was so quick.
Yeah.
And they didn't help us. They just walked off. They had nothing to get from us. I was saying, we don't have our passports. We don't have any money. We don't have anything. And
so you heard a voice that told you that? I
didn't hear a voice. The thought just came in my mind.
Oh, wow. Had you seen the guys approaching at that point?
Mm-mm. It was very strange.
Wow.
And just odd things in my life. I also not necessarily paranormal, but I had this great acting coach in Philadelphia who would say how important it was to do positive affirmations or pray, whatever it is, but say things in a positive way as if they are now. And it was the darkest time in my life, which is how I found acting. I wouldn't classify myself as depressed, but I'm a very happy person, and I wasn't happy. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I was just so displeased with myself. And I found acting, and I was heavy-hearted. As soon as I would leave acting class, I felt so much better. But then, just things in life were challenging. I hit my challenge.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I started these prayers or positive affirmations. Morning and night we were to do them. And one of mine was, I live in Hollywood. I own a home in Hollywood. And I remember it would make me actually cry when I would say it, because even at this time I want to choke up. And I'll save everyone the time of explaining, but we can all relate, I think, to what happens in life. There's some really hardships that we all face. It doesn't matter how much money you have, what race you are. We have all faced those really heavy hardships, and I was there. It was some really challenging adversities that I was dealing with. And in my mind, there was no way out of them. There was no way to LA for a series of reasons. And people that know me will, know those series of very serious reasons. And here I am 3 years later, and I own a home in Hollywood.
We're sitting in Hollywood right now. It's crazy. Yeah.
And I don't know how it happened. It feels as though it was a blur.
Yeah.
And I'm here and I'm happy. And as you know, I love building. I'm trying to record more of it because I want women to see that it's not a magic show. You can get out there and build stuff. So I'm trying to record more of that stuff. But the point is, I am not only in Hollywood, but I have my land that I can build on, and I have all my saws and all my tools. And I had a vision of what it was, and it's even better.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's wonderful. And it's so interesting to see that come about and be here in your home that you bought and fixed up.
Oh, I love having you guys here.
Great.
It's so good for the soul.
Good. Well, good. That's great. We have 2 more questions that we're going to ask Carley, but they are for our patrons only. And those questions are, what happens after we die and why are we here?
Oh.
Hold that for just a second. But I just want to end our time here on the podcast and on YouTube. Check out all the other podcasts we're doing. We're doing a series of great guests here in LA. And our host for so many of them has been Carley Harper. And thank you so much for joining me in front of the camera and in front of the microphones.
Of course.
Cool.